Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Culinary Literacy Program sponsored by the Ruth Keeler Memorial Library. Thanks for tuning in. Just letting you know that if you want to watch this again, this recording will be on the Ruth Keeler Memorial Library's YouTube channel, as well as their Facebook page and on their website. So if you'd like to share it with someone, or if you'd like to watch it again, please do. Also, if you'd like to take some pictures of the food, if you make, please send it to my email address at chefrizzo@hotmail.com, and I'll forward it to our people who do the social media and then make sure they post it. Also, I'd like to thank the friends of the library who are also co-sponsoring this. Please consider becoming a member. You can click on our part of their website and it'll show you how to become a member, okay? All right, so we're going to get down to business today. We are going to do our third part of our series of what can I do with the rotisserie chicken. And today we're going to make New Mexico white chicken chili. And we're also going to make a curry chicken salad. So we're going to start off with the curry chicken salad. And I'm going to come right over here. Again, I've already deboned and shredded up my chicken just by hand, nothing fancy here. This recipe is going to call for like about a half of a chicken and maybe a little more. I just kind of eyeballed it. So with the ingredients, we may have to add a little bit more. We don't know. Right now, this is about a half a portion of the roasted chicken, okay? We're going to start off with a glass bowl. And it doesn't have to be a glass bowl, but I do prefer when I'm working with anything acidic like lemon juice to work with the glass bowl, like I've said in the past. We have our mayonnaise. We have our lemon juice and we have our honey, or you can use maple syrup, whichever you want. I'm going to do that first so it can kind of start to marinate like as a dressing before we add it to the chicken. I like to do that. So we're going to take our mayonnaise. We're going to put it right into our glass bowl. I love this recipe for the spring and the summer because hopefully we'll get back to picnic or barbecue weather. And a lot of times people have problems getting the honey out of the bowl. I actually like to add the lemon to it. And then it helps when we want to scrape it off the bottom a little bit. Mixing it up like that, it kind of becomes one big ball and it makes it easier to dump right into here. I scrape all the goodness in there. My favorite little baby spatula. Get the bowl clean. I put it like this in there, and I'm going to start to whisk it a little bit before I put my spices in there, okay? And remember, we've talked in previous episodes about how when we add our spices, you want to typically add it to something that has a fat content, because most spices are fat soluble, which means they dissolve and they incorporate flavor better into fat than they do water. So our mayonnaise obviously is, or your yogurt for that matter, has a fat content in there. And that's where we're going to put our curry powder. Okay, so we whisk that up. We have a curry powder. We're going to put 2 teaspoons of this into here. I love the smell of that. Take that. 1. 2, and we may need more to taste. We'll just leave that right there. And then we have our 1/4 of a teaspoon of garlic powder. Right there. Okay, and we're going to whisk that in. It's going to make a nice, pretty color. The corn is really good. It smells so good already. Now, we don't want to add our salt and pepper until the end, just like I do most things, because, you know, being that the roasted chicken may already have some seasoning in it. And sometimes mayonnaise have more salt than you know. So it's just there that you can always add, you can't take away. Okay, we're going to set that here for a side for just a little bit. Switch my spots here. I'm going to put me a nice big bowl so that you can see what's going on. You don't really need one this big, but I get this one so that you can see what's going on. All right, so we have a large bowl. We're going to add our chicken in here. Okay. Sure it's nice and shredded. And I just do it by my hand. You don't need to do anything fancy, okay? It's just because after you start to toss it up, many times, it starts to shred even more, okay? All right, good. We're gonna add, now the recipe called for a whole cup of cranberries. It depends on how much you like the cranberries. I put a half a cup. It's up to you. So you can always add more if you think you need more at the end, okay? And then I used cashews today. I've used everything from almonds and pecans. You do want to roast them. These were pre-roasted when I purchased them. And so I didn't feel the need to re-roast them again because they could burn because they have a high oil content. But if I'm going to use cashews, I prefer to use them halved. And I don't like to chop them up because they're so expensive. I just think that they deserve to be seen and tasted in that way. They get too crunchy. I don't like them. They're too small. Pecans, you know, you rough chop them. Same thing with the almonds. You can buy the ones that are really sliced thin. But I like them to be like a nice garnish in here, not all chopped up to where you just see little bits and stuff. So I'm going to put those in there. That, give it a nice little stir quick, folding it all in. And like I said, I used a half a cup of cranberry. You can put more, depends. I just kind of think that's enough for the amount that I'm going to be using here. Okay. You can always half the recipe or double it, depends. And I'm going to show you at the end, you know, how I like to use it in different ways. Okay. So we have that. Set this to the side for just a minute because I want to show you a quick little tip about the celery and the green onions. Let me see here, make some room. Okay. So we have our cutting board here. And with our celery, I've pre-cut some of it, but I wanted to show you. A lot of times people are like, have a hard time cutting the celery. They just start to chop it and dice it. It's best to make it flat. You cut it down the center first. And I've peeled mine because a lot of times when you're eating celery, it's too stringy. And especially like in a cold salad like that, where it's not going to get cooked and broken down like in a soup. So I cut down the middle first. And that helps give you a nice flat way to cut the celery into nice little cubes like this, see? And it looks pretty in a salad because you want the presentation to be nice, okay? Same thing. This celery is not, have you ever seen some celery? It's just droopy. You don't want to use that kind of celery for your salads. You want it to have a nice crisp texture. You also want to realize that just because your celery is very, you know, weepy, it doesn't mean it's not good. You want to use that kind of celery for your soups and things because it's still good. And I don't like to just throw food away. So save those weepy, you know, ones that's been in the refrigerator, use those for your soups. But when you do like a salad like this, it's cold, it's not going to be cooked. Use a nice crisp, you know, piece of celery. This is a little soft because I've already peeled it, but in essence, it's very, you know, crispy. Okay. So then you want to take it and you can slice small little lines. It makes it easier to slice your thin little lines. And depending on how thin you want, you know, your celery, and then you're able to, you know, chop it into nice little pretty pieces because it is about presentation too. It has a, you know, a nice flavor profile, but you want to make sure that it looks really pretty. Okay. And I can use my chef's knives on this as well, but because it does have some, you know, heavy texture to it, sometimes it's just easier when I show you to cut it with a serrated knife because it'll go through any of the leftover stringiness that might be in it. Okay. All right. So we have that. I'm going to go ahead and go right into the bowl with that. And then I have the rest of it. Okay. So the rest of my celery is in there. See, nice pretty cubes. Right in there. And then I'm going to show you another little trick with the green onion. So the green onion, nobody wants to take a big piece of green onion this big. So the easy way to cut it into small little pieces like this without just chopping yourself to death, you know, like, oh, it's very frustrating. You want to take your green onion and you want to lay it flat. It's still tricky. And you're going to take it and you're going to slice it right in half. Like that. And then I go all the way through. Again, it has like a lot of texture to it. So you take it like that, go through it. All right. If you want to make it really super small, then you go one more time and just roughly slice it down again. Same thing with this. Start at the very end and then just trace it down to the bottom there. Okay. Then take it to this corner right here, closer to me. And then you can cut your little pieces like this. Okay. Again, it's about presentation, but it's also that nobody wants to have a huge piece of green onion, you know, trying to chew that. It's supposed to add flavor, appearance, but you want it to be small. It's a salad, you know. Okay, we have that. It's gonna go right into there. And that's just a little helpful hint of your green onions, cutting it smaller than you want there. Okay. in there. Woo. Lemon got to me. All right. Okay, so we have, now let's clean our surface off here a little bit. All right, so we're gonna bring that back toward us. Here we go. So we do our little stir. All mixed in real good. If you feel like a piece is too big, I mean, you know, no worries. Go on and just use your hand. You could break it up a little bit. But for the most part, you see how it's already gotten more shredded as I'm tossing it. Okay. Again, if you see a piece a little bit too big, it's okay. Stop and kind of, you know, assess it or whatever. Okay. Like that. There we go. Okay. Now we have our dressing. Now, this would be a good time if this is your first time making it and you want to taste it, take a little taste. And this way you know what it tastes like as you're putting it in here before you start to add your own little like salt, pepper, or anything else like that, okay? So now we're going to put in a little at a time. You don't have to put all of it. You may need all of it, but you want to go a little at a time, okay? I can tell I'm probably going to use a good amount of this, not all of it. And if it's a little dry, maybe you have to make some more. Let's see. It's gonna be good. You want it to bind a little bit, but you don't want it to be over, you know, wet. You know, that's the worst thing to do is get an over wet chicken salad of any kind, because then when you put it on bread or in a wrap or anything, then everything just gets soggy. So I'm gonna eyeball it and tell you I'm gonna need the rest of this. Yeah, it's starting to come together where it sticks together, which is good. And I press a little bit so I can kind of go into the chicken. All right. Now we're going to do a quick little taste. Some people add like tarragon. Some people add parsley. Some people add cilantro. That at the very end is totally up to you on what you want to do. I try to disrupt the flavor of the curry itself because that's, you know, the beauty of it. Okay, let's take a quick little taste here. I want to make sure I get a little bit of, you know, the celery. I get a little bit of the chicken and the cranberry, and now I got a nut. So I'll put a nut in there. That's good. I do want to do my salt and pepper now. Pepper. Little salt. I'm going to stir. And then I'm going to show you what we're going to do. Now, as this sits up, like, you know, if you want to put in the refrigerator overnight or whatever, it will develop a little bit more of a yellow coloring to it. Okay. So let's put that there. And I want to show you a few things you can do with this. First, there are a lot of people who are watching their carbs, and I totally get that. So you can make basically like big lettuce wraps. You can just cut some big lettuce like this, serve it like this, and they can wrap it up or just eat it like, you know, like this, like a taco kind of like thing. So I can take a little bit of this, put it right here for that person or yourself. You can serve it on a green spring lettuce salad right in the middle. It's up to you. Nice and pretty. You can add a few little tomatoes for them. There you go. And, you know, you could add a couple little cucumbers just to make it look pretty. Some vegetables to it. Just like that. All right. Okay, so that's one way you can serve it. Right there. All right. I've already made a couple of little crostinis. So one day when we have parties again or something, you can serve that, and you can make them smaller, big, however you want, and just put a little bit of this on there.
Is it okay to warm chicken salad and serve with rice?
Yes, you can do that too. You can definitely do that too. I have been once in Maine where I was stuck in a little bitty island, and I had chicken salad and all we had was rice, and I warmed up chicken salad. It wasn't this particular one. I wish it had been this one, but I had to warm up some chicken salad because, you know, we couldn't get back to the mainland to get anything else because we were stuck. So yes, you can do that. All right, let's put it there. The same thing, add a little garnish to it. Make it look really nice and fancy. Add a little tomato in there. And these are grape tomatoes. Those like kind of sweet ones. So they taste awesome with this. Gives it a little bit of better little taste profile. And again, my family is going to be eating this, so I'm touching this with my fingers. But if you were to make it, I would suggest obviously using gloves. Okay. Okay, so there we have that. Put that to the side there. And then our last is going to be, here, we're going to do a wrap. And you see these at the stores all the time. And I have this little like tray here. So we have our wrap right here in the center, almost like a burrito, okay? We're going to take first a little mayonnaise. Put a little, just so that the wrap is not too dry. Maybe a little bit more, I think. Just a little bit. First, we put this. You can use yogurt if you want to. A chipotle mayo, if you're doing a different type of wrap, is really good too. So we're going to do that. Spread it around really good. And then we're going to put a little, we have some big lettuce left. We'll put a big lettuce right here. And I used to make these for Super Bowl parties a long time ago when I used to have that. Going to also put a little avocado in there. These cucumbers and a few little tomatoes in here. All right, not too much. And then we're gonna put just a little bit. You don't want to overdo the chicken salad because then we'll close the chicken salad in there. All right. Like the size of an enchilada, pretty much. Okay. Leave your edges a little empty because you're gonna need those to fold in like this. So you fold, your hands are gonna be like this. You fold, you're gonna grab your thumb underneath here. You're going to flip it once, try to cover it, and then you're going to pull it back and squeeze it. Use your pinkies. Tuck it in, roll it, and get it here. See, like a little burrito. So you take it and you keep the tail face down so that it stays closed. You press it, and then you're going to take a knife and you're going to cut in a diagonal. We're gonna have a nice, pretty inside. Can you see that? Real pretty. So we're gonna put those here, like that. Let's put our tail facing down a little bit, maybe. And then you can put some chips around here and stuff like that, okay? So that is that. Let me clean up a little bit, and then we're gonna work on our white chicken chili. Any questions about the curry chicken salad? Okay, if not, we're gonna move on. Let's see here. All right.
You don't give them time to type.
Huh?
You don't give them time to type.
Yeah, I know. All right. If you still have questions about that, let me know because we're gonna be here cooking the white chicken chili, and there's some time in between where it's gonna be like simmering, or it's gonna be basically sweating the vegetables, and we'll have time to answer questions a little bit. I'm gonna scoot this over. It's a bit hot, so we can get a little bit of room here. Okay, so here we go. White chicken chili. I have this kind of already heating up because last time it took forever to get up to a temperature for me. So I'm going to start off by saying that you're going to use oil. I recommend using a very light olive oil or vegetable oil, but nothing with like flavoring, nothing like peanut or sesame. That's not this. You need something very, very neutral. Okay. So I'm putting in about 2 tablespoons of extra light olive oil, not extra virgin, extra light. Okay. So we're putting that in there. We're going to sweat. Now, when you sweat, remember what I've said before, you want to put a pinch of salt. It is going to help bring out any moisture that's in your vegetables and the flavoring before you're going to put your chicken in. And that's very important. Okay. So we're going to put in, I have 1 cup of onion and green pepper. This is not a hot pepper. This is just bell pepper. But if you want to put some jalapenos or poblanos, you can do that. I try to keep it very neutral, but if you're on the spot, you like the spicy, use poblanos, use jalapenos, mix them up, do all 3, customize it. That is what this is about, okay? So I already have mine all together, but it's like 1 cup of onion, 1 cup of bell pepper, and if you think you need a little bit more, you can. So I already have that, it's been warming up already. Put all that in there, okay? And we are going to stir this up a little bit. You hear it sizzle. That is. Okay. Gonna put that in there, spread it around. I'm gonna turn it up just a little bit. I'm also going to put in my garlic, okay? My 3 tablespoons of garlic. It's already minced. I'm gonna put that in there to come out. I'm gonna stir it up. And I already turned it up a little bit. It all mixed together. And in order to sweat, remember it's a wet cooking method. So we're going to put the top on it. Okay. It's not sauteing where it's hot. And when you sweat, you need a pot that's got deep like this. If it was sauteing, you would use a pan that doesn't have this. They call it a saute pan. This would be like a sautoir. That's the difference. So I've spread it out. I'm going to take a little bit of my chicken stock just to get some moisture in there. Give it 1 more stir, and then we're going to start the sweating process, okay? Shake it up. Our top on. Just a little bit. And once that comes to, like a little simmer, but it starts to sweat and the onions get translucent and you smell it, you'll know. And then this way, we're going to put our spices in there. Okay, so at the moment, we're going to wait for that to sweat. And while that's doing that, we're going to talk about what we're going to do over here with the blender. This is a Vitamix blender. It's really high powered. It even has a transmission, believe it or not. So it can pretty much break down rocks if it has to. I make my own black ground pepper in it. I put the peppercorns in here and just blend it, and it will turn it into your own personal customized black pepper. You can make it as fine as you want or coarse as you want, but that's how strong this is. But I like it because when I make my soups, I'm able to make soups without using cream. And so also without using flour on some things, because a lot of people thicken this particular white chicken chili with a little bit of flour. And I try not to do that because a lot of people are looking for a gluten-free option. And this is a perfect gluten-free option. So I use the white beans to thicken the actual chili up as opposed to flour. Okay, so beans are a perfect way to kind of thicken things up. This is 1 can, and I have here enough for 2 cans. This is going to go in the actual chili, and this is what we're going to do. It's going to go into the blender. So right now, we're going to put this into the blender. We're waiting for that to kind of, I'm going to put the whole can, juice and all the liquid. If you're using chickpeas, do not use the liquid. You need to rinse your chickpeas and then just throw the chickpeas in here and just plan on using a little bit more chicken stock, okay? I do like to use the chickpeas. As far as in the soup, I don't like to thicken it with it, but I would if I had to. It just is a little bit more chalkier as opposed to these are a little bit more creamier. But it tastes wonderful, especially if you like hummus. I mean, that's the way to go is to use the chickpeas. Now, I have chicken stock here. It's pretty warm. You want to make sure it's warm, okay? You put a little bit in there. You don't need a lot because you want it to be kind of thick. And then we're going to taste it and make sure, well, not taste it. We're going to test the viscosity of it because you need to know, eyeballing it, how much more liquid you need to put in there. It should be thick, but not like peanut butter thick. It needs to be a little bit thin, okay? And I'm going to show you that. So we're going to put our top on. Our veggies are still sweating over here. Let me check. Barely, just going real slow. And we're going to put that on. And I'm going to put it on low at first. You see it's moving. It's chunky. I'm going to say it loud, so I'm going to go up higher. Now you saw it was still moving, so that it's not like peanut butter yet. But let's check the viscosity of it. Okay, it's still running. So that's good. You don't want it to be like, trying to get it off there. It's coating the spoon, so you're doing good. Okay, so that is the good news, is that we put the right amount. It's still not as creamy as I want to, so I'm going to blend it a little bit more to get it nice and creamy, which might mean I need more liquid, but we're going to check it first. So here it goes. But take a look. If you can see in here, it's still moving. Since the thing has a transmission, you have to take the gears up slow and bring it down slow. Oh yes, now it's nice and creamy. See that? There's no chunks in it. All right. Okay, now I'm gonna taste it. Now, it should have a little bit of flavoring to it. So I'm gonna add a little pinch of salt and a little bit of pepper. And that's just how I like to do it, okay? I'll do that one more time. Now we're gonna let that sit there for just a little bit while we work on the rest of this. Okay, so now, just like we talked about before, oh yes, oh, it smells good. Okay, like we talked about before, same thing about spices. You want to put your spices in on a, oil or fat-based solution. We've already put our olive oil in here, okay? So it's perfect, right, just for us to put the seasoning in. It would be terrible for me to throw the chicken in here and try to put the spices on top of the chicken. It's not going to meld really well. I'm just telling you, it just gets stuck in one part of the chicken and it doesn't evenly distribute. So first what we're going to do is we're going to put in our 2 teaspoons of chili powder. Like 1.5. Let's see how it goes. I can always add more because we don't want it too red. We want it more like I said, it's the white chicken chili. And then we have 1 tablespoon of cumin. Now that I know it needs a whole amount of that. So we're going to see. Again, we're going to mix it in here so it evenly distributes. Turn it over. Coat everything really good. So when the chicken goes in, it's going to absorb it. Okay. Oh, it smells so good. All right, so there we have it. You see, it almost looks like a little sauce in there. Okay. Now I'm gonna bring this all the way up and let it just go for like about a couple of minutes, or maybe a minute. Just enough to where it just gets nice and hot in there. Okay. So now let's get ready because we're gonna put our chicken in there. The same thing. The chicken is just roughly shredded. It looks kind of big and chunky, but again, we're making it chili. By the time we stir in the beans and do all that, it's going to break this chicken down into like shreds. Like it's going to become that when we put it to a boil. Okay. So we have our chicken. Leave these two. We're going to need them to take this out of there. And we have our stock in case we need to thin out. We also have chopped cilantro. The chopped cilantro is the last thing that you are going to put in there. Okay, we don't want to bring that up to a complete hot boil. It's going to get nasty. But at the very end, you're going to put this cilantro in there. And it looks like a lot, but it's going to need it. Trust me on this, okay? All right, we're now, see this right here? We've got the spices to marry within the peppers and the onions and the garlic. It smells so delicious. Now, we're going to add in chicken. Pop it right in there. Go. Coat it. I like to press on it a little bit. Some people use a spoon, but I really like using the spatula and get underneath it really good. Okay. You see how the spices are working their way into the chicken much easier than if I was just to sprinkle them on there. They wouldn't distribute evenly. Okay. And sometimes people say, should I use the chicken when it's hot or cold? Right? Should I order? I like to cool mine down because if this liquid in here or this mixture that I'm making is warm and the chicken is either room temperature or kind of cold, believe it or not, it will absorb those spices a little bit better than if it was hot. Almost kind of repels if it was hot. So it does a little bit better. So a lot of times I buy my chicken the day before, the night before, debone it, put it in a Ziploc, and then I'm ready to go the next day when I'm doing my chili. And this chili we make is very freezable. So I do like to make it in a big batch and then I freeze half of it. And it's delicious. Okay, so we have that all mixed in. You see the coloring? It's mixed into the chicken really well. Okay, that's good. Next,
It's a lot lighter on camera.
looks a lot lighter on camera. Yeah, that's why it's like a white chicken chili. Even though we put chili powder in here, it's still like a lot lighter. Okay, so they're in there. Smell. Next, we're gonna do is we're gonna add our 2 cans of beans. Again, if you're gonna use chickpeas, drain them and rinse them, and just use the chickpeas. Okay. So we're gonna put in liquid and all the white beans. You can use, I guess, whatever kind of bean you want, but considering it's a white chicken chili, you want to, go with the flow here. Turn that, stir that in real good, and I have the heat on this up pretty high. Okay, now you can see it's still it soaks there all up. The liquid's pretty much gone now. See. There's hardly any liquid. So you start thinking like, where's it going? It's going into the chicken. It's going to everything. We're going to put another one in. That's the second can. Stir it in. And just like the person asked before, you can serve this either in a bowl with crackers, cornbread. You can serve it over rice, quinoa, whatever you wanted to do, I've served it over a huge, large baked potato, and it was delicious with Monterey Jack cheese. It was awesome. Okay, now you see we have a chili, but it's missing something. It's missing 2 things. It's missing, obviously, the cilantro to give it the flavoring, but it needs like a creaminess to make it like a little kind of soupy. And that's where our blended beans come into effect, right here. So we're going to take this and we're going to pour it in there. Stir it all up. All right, make it nice and creamy. And again, this is a way to do it without adding, extra gluten or flour for people. So this is great if you have someone in your family that's gluten intolerant, or they have celiac disease. And you see how it becomes like a chili now, or stew, whatever you want to say. Now we're going to bring this up to a boil in just a minute. You may not need that whole can. It depends on how soupy you want it. Okay. It's going to absorb it. And you see how the chicken has started to shred on its own a little more. So you don't need to do all this extra work and just shredding it to pieces because it's going to shred this on its own. Okay. I'm going to add a little more. And then stir it in. Now, I'm going to do a little taste test here, but I always think that a true taste is after it really comes up to a boil. But I want to make sure that I have enough salt and pepper, enough of the chili powder, since I went a little light on the chili powder. And I'm going to taste it a little bit. It kind of tastes funny because it's cold, but I have to know before it gets to boiling, okay? It's good. And like with everything, you have to customize. I think it needs a pinch of salt. More. I'm going to add the rest of it. I'm going to put it right here in the liquid. A little bit more of the chili powder. And if I have any more cumin, I add my pepper. And let's see here. Anything else on the rack? There we go. I'm going to add just a touch more cumin. And again, it just depends. I mean, every chicken might have a little bit more seasoning from whatever store you get it from. So, it's always good to taste because like I said, you can always add. You can't take away. All right. We're going to bring this up to a boil first. Then I'm going to add in my cilantro. Okay. Let's do it. If it gets too thick, I can always add chicken stock. So if you thought, I made it too thick, we have your chicken stock ready. I'll put a top on that. Not sure how long this will take to come to a little bit of a heater boil. We have our cilantro ready. Pepper here. Let's get rid of some of this. All right. Okay. So I like to also sometimes garnish it. I garnish it with a little cheese. Today I have a little Monterey Jack. I love to use a little bit of avocado on it. So we'll show how we're going to start that up in just a minute when it's ready. Okay. I need a ladle to ladle this out. Just a minute. So get all set up for that. All right. Let's see how we're doing here. Starting to boil. I see it's bubbling. See it's bubbling a little bit. Okay. Any questions? Okay, it's coming up to a boil. Start around here. I'm used to my induction cooker, which is the one I cook with magnets. It comes to a boil like within seconds or a minute. It's just so fast. This one is not, but this pot will not go on the induction cooker. So I have to make do here. All right, we'll give that a little chance. So are there any questions so far? Nothing? Okay. All right. So again, this doesn't have any gluten in it. And I think that's important for people. If you have someone coming over and you don't want to make two different dishes, this is a way to make a dish, a soup or chili, or in your freezer. If you're going to take it over to a friend that might be sick, putting it in their freezer, something they can just pull out as they need, individual portions, it freezes very well. So I wanted to make that for you. And I wanted to show you that chicken salad because as spring comes, you might want to start making this to go hopefully back to work. Or if you have a picnic like the good old days or anything like the 4th of July, this is really good. And you can make this in advance, like up to 2 days in advance and not worry about making it at the last minute and then just put it out like in a bowl and then giving the people to make the options to make their own like crostini sandwiches. You can put it on fresh ciabatta. So you can make different ways of making it and just put out like the cucumbers, the tomatoes, the avocado, and then they can just dress it up as they want to. Okay, we're up to a little boil here. Now, see it bubbling there? It's sizzling. Now we're going to add in the cilantro. Now I used about a bunch of cilantro, but I know every bunch is different in a store. I usually gather, if I can touch my fingers, that's about a bunch to me. So if your bunch is bigger than that, like I said, you're going to do a little bit and taste it. If you need to chop up more, you can. All right, so we're going to put this in here. Let's put that much and see what happens. Again, we talked about how some people don't like cilantro, some hate it. I love it, so I don't mind putting a little bit more. Now, I can tell you it's getting a little thick because it's absorbing that. I'm going to put a little bit of chicken stock in here. Loosen it up a little bit. Beans can burn fast, and once you burn a bean, even if it's just one bean in here, it will never taste the same. Okay, it smells so good. All right, put that up there. Now we're going to give it a taste. Now it has the cilantro in it. Okay, let's get a bean in there. That's good. I still think it needs a little bit more salt. Yummy. That is delish. Okay, so we can take a little bit here, put it in our bowl. Piece there. In there like that. Here. A little bit. A little bit of avocado. You can put sour cream. I mean, you can do it a lot of different ways. So we're going to put a little bit of avocado right there. Cheese. And the person can decide. Do it. All right, and that is your white chicken fillet right there, and it is delicious. Once you try it, you're gonna have at least 2 bowls. Okay, stir this around. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this segment. We will be having another series of culinary literacy in April. We haven't exactly got the recipes that we're thinking about using, but I do think that we're going to go with the theme of flavors of the world. We may interject with a couple of spring items as well, but stay tuned. Keep checking with the Ruth Keeler Memorial website, and we'll be sending out for anybody that has pre-registered for any class. We'll be sending out more information and promotions for the upcoming classes. I appreciate you following this series. I'm Chef Debbie Rizzo with Studio Gourmet. And thanks again to the Ruth Keeler Memorial Library and to the Friends of the Library for sponsoring this wonderful program. And I hope everybody's been enjoying. So feel free to reach out to me at any time at chefrizzo@hotmail.com. Thanks for listening and enjoy.
Thank you.